You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network.
Produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
Today, I'm delighted to be joined here on the stage of the beautiful Mabry Concert Hall on the campus of Austin Peay State University by one of our truly amazing cellists. This is Megan Burindian. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today. You've been playing with us with the Gateway Chamber Orchestra and teaching here at Austin Peay for how long now?
I would say I came in the fall of 2016.
2016. So coming up on 5 years here,
yep.
yeah. Fantastic. And before coming to Clarksville, what was your path to end up here?
So just before I moved here, I was finishing up my doctorate at Florida State University. And I came here kind of straight from that, so straight from Tallahassee up to Tennessee.
Wonderful. And you've also got some degrees, I think, I remember Penn State maybe, and...
I did my undergrad at Penn State. I was born and raised in central Pennsylvania.
Fantastic.
And I did my master's degree at the Cleveland Institute of Music in Ohio.
Wonderful. So we've listened to a beautiful assortment of pieces that you've put together for this children's program, but in particular we wanted to talk about one of those, and that was the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, and you've chosen a little bit of an unusual piece. Tell us about it.
That's right. So I've chosen the Sarabande from his Fifth Suite. So this is maybe one of the most famous sets of pieces that we have. We have these 6 suites. Each one of them has 6 individual movements, and they were all written between 1717 and 1721, sometime around there. A lot of people consider the Sarabande, which is sort of the slower dance movement, to be the heart of each suite. And a lot of people consider the Sarabande of this particular suite, number 5, to be the heart of the whole set of suites.
Well, it is hauntingly beautiful, and I noticed that before you played it, you needed to make an adjustment to your cello. Could you tell us about that?
I did. So this piece was written, normally we tune our instrument in fifths, perfect fifths. This piece calls for the A string to be tuned down 1 step. So we have a 4th and a G on top instead of an A. So in the key of C minor, it changes the whole color, it darkens the whole instrument.
So when you're reading a piece of music and your hands are used to going to certain places and now you have the same notes, but you have to go someplace else, right?
That's right.
How's that work?
It's a little bit tricky. It takes a little bit of practice.
I'm sure. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we so look forward to being able to hear your performance of the Sarabande from which suite?
Number 5.
Number 5 by Johann Sebastian Bach. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Well, hello. I'm coming to you from the beautiful stage of the George and Sharon Mabry Concert Hall on the campus of Austin Peay State University. Thrilled today to be joined by one of our terrific violinists. This is Ryan Cochman. Ryan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So we've had a adventurous morning filming some music to go along with a children's book that we're doing with the GCO family program. And you've really selected some interesting music that I'd like to talk about for a little bit. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally? What brought you to Middle Tennessee?
I'm originally from Orlando, Florida, and after going to school for a while in North Carolina and Tampa and out in Boulder, Colorado, I ended up in San Francisco for a few years, being a freelance musician, and rent prices got a little too crazy, so from there I decided that Nashville was the best bet, and I knew a few people there and kind of just took a risk and moved.
Fantastic. Well, you've been playing with us for about 5 years now. What are some of the other groups that you're involved with around Middle Tennessee?
So I play with a lot of the regional orchestras, Huntsville, Paducah, Bowling Green, and then I also am involved in a couple of new music ensembles that plays living composers' music in Nashville. Some of their names would be Chatterbird.
Fantastic.
Is the one I work with the most.
So what drew you to the violin originally? Can you think back to when you decided to start
Sure,
playing
yeah.
an
Well,
instrument?
my mom decided that me and my sister need to pick instruments, and she picked cello, so I picked the opposite. And I picked violin, and then it was a little bit of a competition between us usually.
Fantastic.
She doesn't play cello anymore though, so I think I won.
And did you start Suzuki?
I did, yes. I started in Suzuki school around age 4 or 5. I didn't touch the violin until probably 6 or 7. So
Interesting. So you know, for our viewers who aren't all that familiar with what the Suzuki method is, very very popular in the string world, also with piano and flute. I've come to recognize in the last little bit. Could you tell us just a little bit about that? How did that work?
Sure. So it's a pedagogical school of violin that was founded by Shinichi Suzuki, who was Japanese actually. And there's a couple of main tenets to the school where the first one is that you teach the parent of the student the instrument first, and the student watches until to the point they decide they want to get up and try. And then the parent can help then teach the student as well when they're practicing at home. So it's not just learning within the lessons, but also the teacher or the parent knows how to play as well and teaches the student. So they call it the Suzuki triangle. So that's one of the main tenets, which is kind of hard to do right now.
Sure.
A lot of parents are working.
Yes,
And
yeah.
so we do our best in lessons every week. I teach it as well now. So.
And what sort of music were you exposed to going through the Suzuki method?
Actually, Suzuki included some traditional Japanese tunes that are pretty familiar now, but the first song that everybody learns is Twinkle Twinkle, because every kid knows it, and it's easy to learn something that you already know by ear. But he also puts melodies from famous pieces by classical composers, very simplified versions, and then over a course of 9 or 10 books, you start to work away from it and go into the bulk of the violin repertoire from there. So,
well, so the book that you ended up selecting as part of the children's program, The Stonecutter, is actually a Japanese tale. And so clearly based on the music that you selected for it, you ended up seeking out music by Japanese composers, and you were able to introduce us to a composer I'd never heard of before, Nobu Koda.
Yes.
Nobu Koda. Who was Nobu Koda?
So she was a Japanese violinist, first and foremost, but she was one of the very first Japanese musicians that left the country, or female Japanese classical musicians that left the country to go study traditional classical music technique. And she ended up going to school, New England Conservatory in Boston, and kind of learned how the European way works. So, and then she started writing her own music while she was there, and so you can kind of see a little bit of the Japanese influence, but also her influence as a violinist first and foremost.
Sure.
You can hear kind of some snippets from some violin pieces, other violin pieces that come up in the music, which I thought was interesting. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a beautiful works. You ended up using excerpts from 2 different works. About when was she at the New England Conservatory? About what was her time
The
period?
early 1900s, so turn of the century, right around the height of the Romantic era.
It has a very romantic vibe to it, I guess,
Definitely,
for lack of a better term. So the work that you've selected as part of this is going to be the second movement of which of the sonatas?
The first sonata, yes.
Okay.
So there's only 2 sonatas, and
Yeah.
I played, the second movement of the first one.
Well, wonderful. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. I find it fascinating that your beginning of your violin journey was with the Japanese Suzuki School, and here you are sharing with us a Japanese work as a professional.
Yes, I seem to be drawn to it, so.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.